I don't know about you, but I used to believe that there was only one story structure for every single story. Well, actually, turns out that's wrong. There is actually so many structures. Now, which is the right one? And let me warn you, some of these systems are going to tell you, dump the system altogether. So, what is the right system and how do you tell a good story? Well, that's what we're going to be exploring with the guys today, as well as asking the guys what are some things that they would have loved to have known when they first started writing, and if they could go back in time and tell their younger selves these pieces of advice, what it would be. So I'm so excited for you to be able to jump into this and hear today's episode. Hey friend, do you love the smell of books? Maybe you absolutely delight in the sound of a pen gliding across a page as you write. Hi, my name is Shira Rodriguez, and I am a Jesus follower, a writer, entrepreneur, and lover of all things boho and books. In this podcast, I want to take you on a journey of discovering yourself, discovering God and your passions, and how to make your life beautiful and so full that it overflows into the lives of others. And over here, we are not about compartmentalizing life. Oh no. Over here, we talk about holistically taking your life and presenting it as a place where others can be blessed just by knowing you. Are you excited? I am. So snag your favorite mug of tea or a pen and paper and let's jump in. Because you're listening to Her Reading Life podcast. Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Her Reading Life podcast. My name is Shira Rodriguez, and if this is your first time, welcome. I'm so delighted to have you here. Please make yourself at home. Feel like we're across the table at a coffee shop or at my house, sipping some warm coffee or tea, whichever one you like or prefer. And just having a wonderful time kind of eavesdropping on the conversation that we're about to have today. I am so excited that you're here. And if you have not listened to the past 2 episodes, I highly recommend that you do, because today we're going to be jumping into the last part, the finale episode of my conversation with 3 amazing writer guys who are going to spill all the beans. Is that how you say it? Spill the beans? Spill the tea? I don't know anymore. Spill the beans on writing and thoughts from a guy writer perspective, from a masculine perspective. I've enjoyed this series so much. I'm truly so sad. Like, this is a bittersweet moment for me because I am so sad that it's ending, but it's also amazing because, yay, we did it. Like, this was the first time that I'd ever invited guys onto it, the podcast, and I'm so delighted with how it turned out. I had an absolute blast with these guys. They are amazing, and it was just such a wonderful privilege and opportunity to be able to chat with them. But anywho, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be diving into how to create stories and story structure, as well as the guys sharing their pieces of advice if they could go back in time and tell themselves one key thing when they were first starting to write, what they would have told themselves, what they would have loved for someone to tell them. And so I always love this question because it's just so insightful, and these gold nuggets are so valuable and beautiful. There's just something really precious about experience. Nothing can replace experience. And so many times, I know that in my life, there are so many things that I would have told myself back in high school, back in middle school, to just, change your mind, fix these things, and you will be great. Unfortunately, we sometimes have to go through a couple of, hard knock life experiences to be able to get there. Also, I just wanted to say, behind the scenes, not even the guys know this. Ha ha ha. So guys, if you're listening to this, this was the behind the scenes at my house. If you hear some dishes clanking at this point, it's actually because while I was on the call with the guys, I was supposed to end at about an hour, and we actually went over the time that I was going to actually take. It was really funny. And so my grandfather had come over for dinner at that time. And so I had asked my family to please be quiet for at least an hour because the call was going to take an hour, but we actually took an hour and a half. because I thought this was going to be a 2-part episode, ended up being a 3-part episode, which it did happen last time that I had a group. So I should have expected that. But if you hear some dishes clanking, that's because I went over my time and my grandfather was there and we were all about to make lunch for him and to eat, everyone there. So that was the backstory on the clinking dishes. So if you hear them, well, please forgive the dishes because, yes, that was my fault. But yeah, fun story about the background noises. It's not their fault, it's mine. But yes, this was so amazing to be able to record, and I am so thrilled for you to be able to hear the finale episode of my conversation with the guys. I love where we went. That's so cool. But yeah, I would love to hear now that we've kind of like gone through all these different kinds of ways of creating characters and just exploring, relationships in characters and the male and female dynamics. I'd love to hear if you could go back to your young self, the one that was writing all these drafts, that was practicing writing like crazy. If you could go back to that young self and tell them one piece of advice, what would it be? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Chris.
Yeah, I think I would tell myself that the first draft can be messy and that's okay. And there can even be themes in there that you didn't mean to put in, because as much as we try to put in themes that point towards Christ, sometimes the way that characters actually end up interacting or the way that things are framed can actually sometimes communicate something we never really meant to communicate or reflect our own brokenness. So I actually shared on a friend's blog recently that when I came back to Canada from Malawi, I lived there. My parents were missionaries, so I lived in Eastern Africa for 10 years and started writing a fantasy novel while I was there. And I tried to work in themes around like ethnicity and race and power dynamics and stuff like that, and then came back to Canada and started my first year of university in a culture that was actually, even though I'm Canadian, it was actually really, really unfamiliar and strange for me because I'd grown up abroad. And a lot of what we were discussing, I specialized in African studies, and we discussed a lot about how missionaries colluded with the colonial powers and how much like abuse and toxicity there was there, and there were just a lot of people kind of expressing their hurt and anger. And like through this process, I realized some of my own weaknesses and flaws in that area, like ways that I had thinking patterns that weren't Christ-like in terms of how I approached culture or race and stuff like that. And so this kind of like made me spiral, and I saw some of those weaknesses in my story, and I was like, oh, this story is beyond redemption. Like, this is awful. How could I have written this? And I wish I could go back and tell myself, baby first year me, that like it's okay to make mistakes in your first draft. And actually that's just opened up a lot of doors for me to kind of actually heal and rethink some things. So I'm currently writing a story set in pre-colonial Africa, and I've had the opportunity to talk with some of my African buddies about like what do you want to see in that, and what would you love to see portrayed in fiction about Africa that is missing right now. And it's kind of scary because I'm still a white guy, but they're like, yeah, dude, like I'm so excited to read this and just write people how they are, write them as humans, and show the reality of it. Like don't try to make anything pretty, whether that's the white people or the black people or any sort of power dynamic in there. Just write it how it is, but point towards Jesus and point towards like love and truth. And so I'm sure I'll make mistakes in the first draft of this story, but I'm also excited to go through that process.
That's so beautiful. I love that. And yeah, honestly, it can be so easy for us to judge our first drafts because we have this
Mhm.
we have this picture in our minds when we imagined it, and then when it's on the page, somehow it's not as glorious as we imagined it to be.
Mhm.
And but I love that you were able to like change, like that you were able to accept that and move on and change and actually allow that to catapult you into creating something beautiful that maybe doesn't exist
Mhm.
yet. And I love that so much. And as someone who's like Latina, I totally get like the whole cultural dynamics thing. It can be complicated. It
Mhm.
really can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but again, it's not really about the more I've researched, because I was in my own story, it's set in St. Augustine, Florida, where there was a lot of it was just a melting pot at that time,
Hmm.
because there were slaves coming from the northern colonies, escaping down to Florida because that was where the Spanish were giving slaves freedom. And the beautiful thing is that I've found that it's really not about race per se. It's just about creating people who
Hmm.
are just reflecting their humanity. So like
Yeah.
every hero has a part that's not so great about. I love saying I have a little bit of the villain in every hero and a little bit of
Hmm.
the hero in every villain. And yeah, just creating a diverse character, not because I have to fill like a checklist of this guy is going to be, Asian or
Yeah.
black or Hispanic or whatever, or white, or, just creating characters who are just human and beautiful, just the way
Yeah.
that they are, and just using those characteristics to reflect their character, just like I
Hmm.
would with any other character.
Yeah. And I think so much of it too, this is a little bit of a digression, but I think a lot of it is really, it's not so much at the end of the day about skin tone as much as power dynamics. Like that is
Yeah,
why race exists,
absolutely.
is to like bolster certain systems of power. And when you kind of look at it that way, this is something that we all struggle with, is using power and privilege in ways that don't benefit ourselves or those around us or glorify God. And so that's something that I think we actually really have to deal with in any story, not just in stories where we have a token person of color as
Yeah.
the main character, right? Like I think that's just something that is in a way inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I'd love to hear from you, Byron. If you could go back and tell your young self one thing or a piece of advice or something that you've learned and you could just kind of transport yourself back,
Yeah.
piece of advice, what would you say to yourself?
Two things actually. The main being that slumps happen in your creativity, and that's
Hmm.
okay, but you need to push through them. And you can't just let writer's block or these inspiration slumps get the best of you. You need to be actively seeking out inspiration. You need to learn how to control your inspiration. And there's ways to do that without getting burnt out, but that's a whole tangent. um, and then the other thing is just a lot of advice that's told to new writers is just go write. Well, yeah, that's true, but you need to study the craft itself, and you
Yes.
need to go and actively search and study good technique, who the greats are. You need to be studying tropes so that you can learn how to manipulate them. If you're wanting to write a fantastic redemption arc, you should be studying fantastic redemption arcs and dissecting what makes them so good and why this works so well. Yeah, and yeah, it's just you can't just write and expect to become a great writer. You need to be read. I mean, it's like telling someone who wants to become an artist, yeah, just go grab some paint and just start painting. Like, no, no, no. You need to learn the techniques. You need to learn the rules so that you can break them.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love how you finished with how you can break them. But yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that I've noticed that a lot of people don't talk about. They say, okay, study story structure, and we get it. Like I get it. There
Yeah,
are
it's
some
like they
rules
stop
to
at just like the
fiction.
3 act structure. And then they're like, "You're good.
Exactly.
You're good." Like, no,
Yes.
no, no, no. There's so much more nuance to that. And I get asked like by teen writers all the time who are just starting out, like, "How do I start a story? I don't know how to start my book. I don't know how to do this or that." I'm like, just go study your favorite books. Why is this moment? Why do you love this moment so much? And then look at all the plot points that lead up to that. Or just like building plot points in general. It's so much more, and this is kind of going back to something you said about overcomplicating plot, but it's
Yeah.
so much more simple than you think it is. Because at the end of the day, all the story is about is you have a character, there's something that he wants more than anything else in the world that may or may not contrast with what he actually needs. And then there's something that's stopping him from getting it. Like that's all it is. And if you just start with your character, you can build a very profound plot around that by creating obstacles tailored to his art and what he wants and what's stopping him.
I've been asking the guys a ton of questions, but now I'd actually like to ask you one. Who are some of your writing heroes? For me, one of my all time favorite writing heroes is C.S. Lewis. I admire his beautiful depth and ability to give a vaster meaning to words than they appeared to have on the page. His stories have become the hallmark and bedrock of my own stories. And that's why I was so incredibly delighted when I heard that there was an author who was striving to follow in the footsteps of Lewis and Tolkien in his own work with his novella, The Foxling. This story is about a boy named Charlie Strong who is thrust into an extraordinary adventure when Dreamer, a foxling, arrives on his doorstep with a mission to help him conquer his deepest fears. Throughout this enchanting tale, Dreamer crafts 3 pivotal tests for Charlie, each designed to help him grow and overcome his challenges. The Foxling series begins with this heartwarming story, setting the stage for an epic children's fantasy saga that includes a novella and will soon expand to 4 full-length novels. At its heart is Dreamer the Foxling, a charming and courageous creature who embarks on missions to assist children in solving their problems and realizing their dreams. Alongside other foxlings, Dreamer battles terrifying monsters from another world, defending children from the dark forces that threaten to destroy them. Dive into this magical world where bravery and friendship light the way through the darkest of fears. The Foxling is now available on Amazon, and you can get your very own copy to curl up with on a couch and enjoy by using the link in the show notes below. Hey there, lovely listeners. I have the most fantastic opportunity to share with you today. How would you like to join the street team for Novelists in November short story collection featuring my very own short story, which you'll be the first to discover the title and story blurb if you join? This enchanting anthology is launching this November, and I'd be absolutely delighted to have you join us. Picture this: dark academia vibes, cozy sweaters, rain pattering on your window, and all your favorite bookish feels with a mug of hot tea or pumpkin latte. That's the essence of this collection. By joining our street team, you'll get exclusive behind-the-scenes info, early access to the cover, sneak peeks of the stories, first dibs on pre-orders, and some very special gifts I'm personally designing just for you. And the best part? There are no requirements. It's super flexible to fit your schedule. We're planning an exciting cover reveal in June and story and title reveal earlier in the month. Plus, you'll get an early ebook copy of the anthology and see our book cover before anyone else. So, if you would love to be part of this cozy autumnal adventure, click the link in the show notes and join the rest of our bookish friends on the street team, or visit bio.site/ShiraJRodriguez. That's bio.site/ShiraJRodriguez. Thank you so much for your incredible support and enthusiasm. I'm truly grateful for you, and I can't wait to see you on the team. Hey there, listeners. Before we dive back into today's episode, I want to take a quick moment to talk about something really important. Reviews are the lifeblood of any podcast. They not only let us know what you're loving about the show, but also help others discover the beauty of living, giving, and repeating. So if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, here's a small favor I'd love to ask. Could you take just a minute or two to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform? Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform you listen on, your reviews make a world of difference. By leaving a review, you're not just sharing your thoughts with us, but you're also helping us climb the charts and reach more listeners who might benefit from our discussions. Plus, it's a wonderful way to show your support for the content you love. So friends, if you're finding value, inspiration, or even just a good laugh in any of these episodes, please consider dropping a review. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. And hey, if you want to go the extra mile, share the podcast with your friends, family, or anyone you think would benefit from these conversations. Together, we can create a community of listeners who are engaged, inspired, and ready to take on the world. All right, that's enough from me. Let's get back to the show. Thanks for being the wonderful, lovely, incredible listeners you are. And as always, enjoy the episode. Exactly. Yeah. I 100% agree. When I was in high school, like my last year in high school, I was trying to look for a writing program and I couldn't find any. So my dad was like, "Hey, why don't you just design your own?" So I was like, "Okay, we'll do it." So
Yeah.
I took my British literature course and I went from Beowulf to Virginia Woolf, and I just imitated the writing styles of all of them. And I would just
Yes,
start, especially
imitation is
for
fantastic.
writing. Nobody talks about it. I don't know
Yeah.
why nobody talks about how
Because it's really
valuable
hard to
it is.
teach. It's really hard to teach. That's why. It's really hard to grade. And so just for your
Mhm.
English teacher and your creative writing teacher, they dump
Yeah.
it because it requires them to be really skilled, and it's not something you can teach from a textbook. And then
Exactly.
as far as courses go, if you're really wanting to further your education and writing itself, get on YouTube. Brandon Sanderson, author of Mistborn and Stormlight Archive, is a
Mhm.
professor at BYU and he teaches creative writing and he uploads all of his course lectures for free on YouTube
Right.
because he doesn't believe in gatekeeping and he's a great guy. So
Yeah.
get on there. They're super long. There's a bunch of them, but it is a boot camp. I mean, you're learning from the best of the best. If you want to make yourself an apprentice of an author, especially if you want to write sci-fi and fantasy, go watch his videos. And then another person on YouTube is Hello Future Me, and does an excellent job with dissecting some of the most well-loved fan bases and just all sorts of different books and movies, comics, just throughout media, from Star Wars to Avatar to all
Right.
these other books you've never heard of, just talking about, well, how can I actually go
Yeah.
about writing a good first chapter? Like no one talks about it. They're like, oh, you're going to revise it 7 times. Well, okay,
Right.
well, how can I actually, like, there's a method. There is. Otherwise, people wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to write them. Just to how I can go about doing this or what makes a good redemption arc and just doing the hard work for you if you're not comfortable with dissecting stories on your own
Yeah.
so that you can see exactly what you should do to achieve these certain results.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. And I think Jaden, you shared like a post or something like that from John Green or something like that. He was talking something about that recently.
I did, yeah, yeah. He was I think he was talking about how he sees so much on like the writer side of Instagram or just social media in general. He sees so much, advice, but like, oh, master story structure. And he said, when I wrote The Fault in Our Stars, I didn't know what the hell story structure was. He didn't know what on earth like he was doing. And he wrote it, and now people use that book as a example for story structure. And it's interesting, like you don't need, I mean, obviously there is such a thing as story structure. And I mean, there's a great strength to story structure, but you don't
Hmm.
need to, it's not something that needs to be stuck to like
Exactly.
on a regular
Religiously.
basis, like religiously. Yes. I mean, you look at like Avengers Endgame, that, that goes off the rails with its structure, and yet
Mhm.
it's still a
Right.
really good movie. So I mean, like the structure doesn't need to be stuck to religiously. I mean, like Byron said, like learn the rules so you can break them. And I think structure is a really big part of that.
And I would add, look up other cultural ways of structuring stories. Like there's a
Yes.
Japanese form called Kisho Tenketsu, which is in many ways similar to the three act structure, but basically has 4 acts. And the third act is kind of like a twist that leads to it's the twist comes at the climax, and then from there the tension goes down. So it's a slightly different model, but
Right.
it's really interesting. And I find it really fascinating how you can analyze scripture, like Jesus's arc throughout all of the Gospels as he goes towards the cross, using either the Kisho Tenketsu or the 3 act structure. And I think that these things are really kind of ingrained in our human psyche somehow. I don't know
Yes.
if that's the Holy Spirit or something in our DNA or a combination, but we have this longing for heroes to make things right and for there to be meaning in the world. And I think that that is imprinted on all of our brains, and sometimes it's less complicated than we make it out to be when we try to dissect and analyze everything, as helpful as that can be.
Absolutely. Oh, I totally agree. I think there's a verse in the Bible. I can't remember the reference, but where it says he has put eternity in the heart of man. Like we literally long for eternity. We were made for this
Yep.
perfect reality. And I think in a way, every time we write a story, we're trying to go back to that somehow. Every story structure is just somehow it's the yearning of our own hearts and our own souls for that perfection, for creating that reality, even in our minds and in our imaginations, that only exists in another place. Or like I think C.S. Lewis called it Zenzucht or something like that. It's like this desire for another world,
Mhm.
this aching joy. And yes, I totally agree, Chris. I love that. I was actually reading, I didn't get to read the whole thing, but I remember I was, for my own novel, I was starting to read some Spanish literature in Spanish. And it was so interesting to just see how different it is and how it completely gives you completely different like ideas. Just reading different kinds of world literature in particular, which it's right there. It's there for us. Some of the stuff is even translated. So why don't we use it? Especially, and if we're going to talk about diversity, okay, let's get diverse by actually, you know, respecting the cultures of these things and adapting them in new and unique ways. We've gotten, as a culture, we've started rehashing these stories so much, and I'm not going to get too much into it, but I think it has something to do with, money and the whole industry of, like, publishing and movie industry, that it's just about churning more money. It's a money making machine. But honestly, if we look around, there are opportunities all around us to make incredibly unique and beautiful stories that just blow our minds and blow our
Mhm.
readers' minds.
Absolutely.
I love that. Wow, that was really good. Jaden, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you could go back and tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
For me, it would be to focus on developing your faith before you focus on developing ways to share it.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, especially when I was first starting out, I was in a rough spot with faith, and it was a hard time for me. But at the same time, I was still, writing these stories and trying to, like, put put these sort of biblical themes in them, whereas I really didn't understand what I was saying, and that not only was a detriment to me, but also could be a detriment to others, if, like, you share that and you misinterpret something, or you communicate the wrong sort of message. And I had to sort of, like, take a step back and focus on myself and focus on, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I want to be a writer? I mean, yes, it's fun, but what's the reasoning behind it? And I came to the conclusion that the main reason why I want to be a writer is to share the truth of God's word. And you can only do that if you understand your own faith and you know what you
Right.
believe, in order to effectively
Amen.
communicate it. Yeah, in
Absolutely.
order to effectively communicate, you need to know what you're communicating. And that was something that when I was starting off, I didn't understand. And so if I could go back and tell myself one thing, it would definitely be that.
I love that. Yeah. And that's so true, because honestly, as writers, we have to write from ourselves. If we can't write from what we experientially know, we're not going to believe it. And you can bet your bottom dollar that your reader is not going to believe it either at all. Um, and I've found that it's so interesting when I've gone back to my own work. The best parts are the ones that I'm like, that was me. That was me writing about me. You just don't know it. It's just under different names. It's under different, tags and things like that. But that was I'm writing from what I've experienced, what I feel, what I believe, the convictions that I have. And those are where your strongest writing is going to come from. But again, if our goal is to write something beautiful, to write something that reflects God and reflects his character and reflects, like, the gospel story in some way, shape, or form, whether we talk about the gospel explicitly or not. We've got to work on who we are and our own character and our own who we want to be as people before we even start writing and be the person that you would look on the outside and you're like, I want to be like that person. Well, start working on yourself. Start working on yourself, and your story will be good.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Wow. Okay. This has been amazing. And now I have the last three questions. We'll try to run through these quickly to wrap up. But I would love to hear from you, Chris. One of the final questions that we ask every guest who comes on this podcast, I'd love to hear, how do you live? So, what are some activities that just fill you up, that just give you life? I'd love to hear from your thoughts.
Yeah. For me, it would be running, kickboxing, definitely kind of intentionally growing spiritually with other Christian brothers. So whether that's meeting up for coffee or, having a men's group at my place, that really just is something that I need spiritually. And then I journal. I try to get my hands dirty in soil, grow a plant every once in a while, even when it's winter in Canada. So yeah, those are some things I just find kind of help me connect with God and stay grounded.
I love that. Yeah. How about you, Jaden?
Well, for me, I know that like Chris said, I enjoy running, but I also enjoy mountain biking. I haven't done it in a while, but that's definitely something I do enjoy doing. And it's just a nice opportunity to be outside in the dirt, just flying downhill on a bike with friends, or just on your own. Another thing is just hanging out with friends or with my brother, or beating up my brother. That's one of the two. Um, but those are definitely some ways in which I find joy in my life.
I love that. How about you, Byron?
Well, obviously writing and reading takes up most of my time. But when I'm not doing that, I'm usually writing orchestral soundtracks for my books because everything
Mm.
has to revolve around story for me. And then I'm also played a lot of baseball growing up, so enjoy playing baseball and football. Spend a lot of time at church, the Bible studies. So I'm at my church right now recording this with you guys. So like I just come here. Like this is my home away from home. I find a lot of joy in it and just being with my friends and my family.
I love that. And yeah, I found it super interesting that sports, like, well, not it shouldn't be a surprise. Sports is such a it's such a life-giving thing. And yeah, it is true. Like there's something about when you're able to move around that it just does help you think better. Because so
Yeah,
many times we
just
like
being
coop
outside,
ourselves. Yeah, we just coop
just
ourselves up.
decompressing.
Yeah, we coop ourselves up with just writing. And sometimes we're like, it's not working, it's not working. We go outside and we're like, boom, idea. I got it. I feel like sometimes we as writers kind of tend to cloister ourselves up so much and we tend to think that writing is like a solitary art, but hanging out with people and learning from people and like even studying people if you have to do people watching like just do it. But really we can't write good stories unless we have some kind of interaction with people as well, like just to even if it's to just have some bit of inspiration strike you. Sometimes there's people that will say something that you're like, okay, I needed that. That spurred something. And things like that. So I'd love to hear from you, Byron. What are some of your favorite ways to bless and fill other people or like to give back?
Yeah, I really enjoy just giving people my time. I mean, it's the best way I can show them
Mhm.
how much I appreciate them because, life's hectic, my schedule is insane, but just being able to carve out that little bit of time, each week or, each day, just to be able to spend time with my family or with my friends and that kind of thing. And just the occasional gift, I like just surprising people with stuff, just seeing the smile on their face is always rewarding. But for me, mostly it's just spending time with people. Then that's the best way I can show them that I do enjoy their company and I enjoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. How about you, Jaden?
Well, kind of similarly to Byron, just giving people my time, but also having especially deep and encouraging conversations with some of my best friends, whether they're struggling, whether I'm struggling, or with my brother.
Your
But
brother seems to come up a lot.
yeah, it's just the two of us. We're really close. But yeah, that's one of the main things. Like I love being able to encourage my brother, my peers, my friends with whatever struggles we might have. Just giving them truth, giving them encouragement in multiple ways, depending on the context. So yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. How about you, Chris?
Well, recently I've been cooking for people a little bit more actually. My roommates have we have this really awesome arrangement where since there's five of us, one of us cooks one night a week. And so that way like 5 days of the week are already covered and then we also cook for each other on weekends often. And so because I only really have to cook once a week, I often just make a big batch and like bring it to somebody from church who, is having a difficult time or something like that. It feels manageable because I'm cooking a big batch anyway, and sort of figure why not. So yeah, that's been fun.
I love that. That's lovely. Yeah, I feel like you've learned the house what's it called? The women's secret for like big families. They just cook the big batch and then they're like we
Exactly.
froze everything else.
We divvy up cleaning responsibilities too. My roommate is like, okay, you guys are on cooking duty, or sorry, you guys are on shopping duty. You guys are on cleaning duty. You take out the trash, and we just like it's like the army over here. Everybody has their task.
Oh man, I'd love to see that. Wow, I love how each one of you like just uniquely just shares and just gives out to other people and fills other people up and just finds intentionally ways to just fill other people up. And sometimes we don't think about those things in the moment, but then people are like, "Wow, man, that felt really great," or that meant so much to me. And we're like, "Oh, sure." But it's often the little things that mean so much to people. I would love to hear what are some favorite ways to repeat? So habits that you guys have implemented. I love to hear your thoughts on this, Chris.
Yeah, I've found that I really just do best when I write in the mornings. I don't know, as a teen I somehow was able to write in the evenings, and that hasn't worked for me. It kind of has to be mornings now. And also just get regular sleep, exercise often. I don't it's if I don't do those three things, then everything starts to just spiral after a week. So I've learned that I have to kind of have an old man schedule and keep myself to it.
I love it. Yeah. Same here, actually. I'd have to wake up at 6 o'clock so that way I can get some like writing in because otherwise I'm distracted most of the day. Or it has to be in the afternoon after lunch where I'm half sleepy because then I won't be overthinking my work. So actually, it's really weird because I had one day where it was like after 12. I keep getting mixed up 12 a.m., 12 p.m., 12 a.m. I think that's when you say midnight. Anyway, it was at midnight and I was still writing and when I looked at it the next day, I was like, "Wait a minute, this is actually pretty good. This is better than some of my other writing." So I've kind of adopted the "don't think about it too much" method, which yeah, whatever. But yeah, I have to kind of be in the early morning where nobody's around and walking around or being like, "Hey, Shida, are you busy?" And we're like, "No." But yeah, I totally relate to that. I love that. How about you, Jaden?
Well, for me, I sort of have a schedule that I try to stick to. It doesn't always work, but I do like to wake up early, right in the mornings, go to class, especially mainly because that's a requirement. But but then doing homework in the afternoons, evenings. I try to cut it off at around 8 p.m. or cut homework off at around 8 p.m. Hang out with friends at night just to be able to, you know, socialize and then maybe get some writing done at night as well. And that's sort of a cycle that repeats itself every week. I also read the Bible in the mornings. If I don't sleep in by mistake. But that is definitely something that's important to me as well, and one of the things that I really try to do every day.
I love that. Yeah, totally. Yeah. The Bible definitely does change. I think it definitely makes a huge impact in the day. Like when I put the Bible first, I try to pray and even pray over my writing because I feel like when the Holy Spirit just moves through it, it just becomes something completely different and out of my hands, which is just beautiful, I think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Byron.
Yeah, for me, just utilizing those to-do lists, otherwise nothing gets done. Getting up early, keeping up that strong prayer life. For me, I like writing just whenever. I'll write in the evening, but usually I'll write late at
You're
night. I'm a
fortunate.
night owl. I pull that 2 a.m. stuff, just writing. I don't know what it is, but I get it done. But yeah.
So my takeaway
Awesome.
is we're all boring.
Night owls unite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's an interesting time at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, and you wake up the next morning, you're like, wait, hold on, what is this that I wrote? That's for me at least.
Exactly.
No, for me, it's my best work. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
know, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
was
feel
even
like
thinking about like
yeah.
Velcro, and I'm like, what? Wait, what is what does this mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like honestly, you use our subconscious minds a lot more when we're tired because we're almost like we're about to go to bed and we're about to go into that dream state. So when we're
Yeah.
writing, it's
Mhm.
almost like we're actively dreaming or something. I don't know. It
Yeah, and if you
works.
get that ambient music going, set that
Yeah,
mood,
exactly.
you're inside that book. 2.5 hours later, it's 2 o'clock, and you're like, oh wow, I got 4,000 words in. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, totally. So, yes, where can our guests find you or get in touch with you? Where would be the best place where they can find you? I'd love to hear from you, Jaden.
Well, you can find me on my Instagram. It's author Jaden Gelso, all lowercase, no dashes or dots or anything. If you want to email me, you can email me at authorjadengelso@gmail.com. I try to check that on a regular basis. But yeah, those are the two main ways you can get in touch.
I love that. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's Chris Babcock Writes, or you can visit my website, Chris Babcock Author. I know the synonyms are confusing, but yeah, Chris Babcock Writes or Chris Babcock Author. Either of those work, and I'm starting up a mailing list soon, so keep an eye on that.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Yeah. How about you, Byron?
For me, you can find me on Instagram. My DMs are always open. Unfortunately, mine does have a lot of underscores and dots. So it's author_b.w.luby. And then you can go to my website, which is foxlingstudios.com, foxling studios.com. And, emails on there, a bunch of links to like my Spotify where you can listen to all my book soundtracks and that sort of thing. But best way to reach out to me is definitely those DMs on Instagram.
I love that. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I had so much fun, and I really hope we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. It was great. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so
Yeah,
much for having us on.
yeah, of course. Oh my goodness, that was so good. I am so delighted that we were able to work on these episodes together. Truly, I'm so grateful to the guys for taking time out of their busy schedules to be able to come on and share their thoughts and share their hearts. Truly, I'm so incredibly grateful. Honestly, this was absolutely so fun. And I'm so grateful also to you listeners for listening and following us all this time and all this far. It's been an absolute delight to be able to read all your wonderful responses and your thoughts on these episodes. It's truly warmed my heart so much, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. I hope that you guys enjoyed this and that you found some incredible value from this. Please let me know if you would like more episodes like this or any other topics that you'd be interested in. I'd be delighted to hear. So, friends, I hope that you enjoyed this finale of my conversation with the guys, and until next time, continue to live, give, and repeat, and I'll see you next week. Yay! You did it! I'm giving you a lovely big virtual hug because you just finished another episode of Her Reading Life podcast. If you'd like to access all the wonderful links I mentioned in this episode, visit my website at bio.site/Shira J. Rodriguez. That's bio.site/Shira J. Rodriguez. There you can access my blog posts, resources, and so much more. Also, check out my Instagram page for more inspirational content. And join my email list for insider secrets and exclusive updates on special events. The links are in the description box below. Also, if you could take a minute and leave a review for this podcast, that would be amazing. We're able to reach so many more people because of your reviews and ratings. I can't wait to chat with you next time, friends. Keep living, giving, and repeating.